What have we really been seeing? And how can we look at what we've really been seeing to know where it is going?
Donald Trump is the President of the United States.
You're awake, by the way. You're not having a terrible, terrible dream. Also, you're not dead and you haven't gone to hell. This is your life now. This is our election now. This is us. This is our country. It's real.
I'm in shock. I cried myself to sleep.
I don't like Donald Trump, but I would never try to kill anybody.
My LGBT family now lives under a vice president who literally believes in electrocuting the gay out of children.
All of that opposition, Donald J. Trump is now President of the United States. President Obama.
It has to be a joke. I do not believe this is happening. I'm literally about to fucking kill myself, and I'm not kidding. You better fucking fix this shit right now.
Oh, we should film it.
He don't care about you. Kill me. Kill me. I literally am gonna die. I need an ambulance. You're fucking a white male! A white fucking racist fucking male that doesn't stand for women's rights. Smile on your face, what you want? Get the fuck out of here! Fucking dipshit! And get that camera out of my face! Don't ever stalk me again.
What did I say to you?
Assault him or runs by being here,
You have to
fucking
respect
asshole.
and you're swearing.
I don't give a fuck!
Oh my god! Oh shit, they're throwing eggs at us. There's a reason. Do not fucking see the rock.
Emotional outbursts, panic, tantrums, frustration, fear, intolerance, violence. Could we be witnessing a case of mass hysteria? A phenomena that transmits collective illusions of threats, whether real or imaginary, through a population in society as a result of rumors and fear. Or could we be seeing the dangerous results of indoctrination? Indoctrination, the process of teaching a person or group to accept a set of beliefs uncritically. Or is it that we may be seeing a mixture of both? And if so, what could be causing this epidemic? Well, I'm going to be taking you on an investigative adventure to unmask this phenomena. So what are social justice warriors exactly? Social justice warriors could be described as volatile, ultra-progressive, left-leaning advocates of safe spaces, feminism, gender identity, political correctness, and multiculturalism that desire to create a totalitarian system that attempts to censor speech and promote fringe lifestyles while actively discriminating against men, particularly white men. Now, let's define what anti-fascists are. Anti-fascists, a network of independent and grassroots groups working together against the rise of racism and fascism in our communities. Or what most people know them as, a group of communist-leaning social justice warriors that riot and enact violence in order to stomp out perceived fascists. So let's start where I started, the local anti-fascist group, Revolutionary Student Front's Facebook page. The first post I noticed was that which discussed the recent March for Trump in Austin, where a group of anti-fascists went to in an attempt to shut it down, which resulted in an anti-fascist journalist, Kit O'Connell's arrest. They had a fundraiser page where they were asking for donations for their arrested comrade. The money will go to support Kit's hospital bill, replacement glasses, missed work, and other medical expenses, as well as legal fees, said the Post. They even raised $2,000. So my next question was, who were these donors funding the anti-fascists? The donor page had names of the donors and their contributions. So the next question to answer was, who exactly were these people? Many were fellow college students, but the most shocking finding of all was that some were professors. Yes, university professors. So why would a university professor be donating money to an arrested individual that's a member of the extremist group anti-fascist that is known for rioting, vandalism, and attacking Donald Trump supporters? Now, the trail led me to the universities. In this article, it talked about how students that took specific social justice studies received $2,800 in scholarships, and they even gained special privileges, which gained them access to use a special computer lab, cameras, and radio equipment. Why would universities be giving scholarships and special privileges to students that took social justice studies programs? So the next logical thought was to look into these social justice programs, and I decided the University of Texas would be a good start. I found the Human Rights and Social Justice program. Upon reading the program summary, it seemed pretty mild, although one sentence stuck out. Finally, through the connecting experience component of the program, students will have the opportunity to complement their coursework with hands-on experience in an organization working on human rights and social justice concerns. Then I found the link to the Human Rights and Social Justice faculty panel. It had a long list of professors that each had a summary of their coursework expertise. What began to become apparent upon simply reading their own description of what they taught is that these professors shared some pretty extreme left ideologies. And with a simple YouTube search, you could find these professors giving lectures where you could hear their leftist extremist ideologies, some even verging on Marxism.
Here, I want to ask what may seem like a simple and even obvious question. Where does racism come from? From what roots does racism arise? And I think that question also is simple to answer. It comes from white supremacy, right? The idea that non-white people are inherently inferior in intellectual or moral terms from white folks. All right, let me start with a clear statement on my own position on these two cults I'm speaking of. First of all, I am anti-capitalist without hesitation. The sense of the way I'm using this term cult, what I'm really arguing is that capitalism can never be anything but a cult. Capitalism is not only a cult, but essentially at this point, quite clearly a kind of death cult.
The conclusions you would draw on crucial issues, if you consulted God's word, if you consulted the design of nature and what your senses and understanding of the world empirically could convey to you, or if you stepped back and looked, as our founding fathers did, at what kind of Republican principles the basic opinions of mankind demanded. That the law of God, the law of nature, and the laws of Republican government, the authority of Republican government, were all aligned. This all comes apart in the debate over slavery. The convergence of them collapsed, and even the sources of authority themselves became inherently incoherent. I think you as teachers, when you're teaching especially the expository literature of the Civil War period, can use these three sources of authority to sort of get your students inside some of these texts to ask them, what are these writers basing their arguments on?
Then I looked at KVRX, the Austin UT College radio station, and lo and behold, the students running the radio were affiliating with outspoken Antifa members. I even came across a UC Berkeley college radio interview with a professor. It's important to note that the interview is about a book that this professor published about fascism just before the UC Berkeley riots broke out, where anti-fascists shut down a Milo Yiannopoulos event.
Trump became sort of leader of the wingnut Tea Party branch of birthers. And from there, he gained a significant right-wing reactionary following, which he was able to parlay into his presidential bid. And through that campaign, he became kind of a figurehead for a lot of Nazis and traditionalists and old-school Southern neo-Confederates. And so it was through that coalition, if you will, of fascists that Trump was able to really compete for presidency and eventually win.
More recently, warnings of a creeping fascism have returned. I don't know who's doing that, but if we consider the left's embrace of equality as its defining characteristic, fascism remains decisively on the right. Obviously, he needs to be opposed on every level, and obviously he's not only benefiting from the rise of fascism, he's facilitating it. Can we make the call that the alt-right is fascist? Yeah, absolutely, that is a fascist movement, and it has to be opposed physically and ideologically.
And this professor talked about Alex Jones, and in so misrepresented Alex's political beliefs in order to create a false dichotomy.
What they did, along with like Alex Jones and people like that, is create this alt universe where globalization was a creation of the left. Globalization was the economic expression of an ideology that they referred to as globalism, which is created by cultural Marxists and Jews who are trying to deracinate the people of Europe and white people in the United States.
What can be drawn from this interview is that we have a few professors that are trying to rewrite history in order to falsely associate fascism with Donald Trump and his supporters. The question then arose, is this just a handful of universities, or is this happening all over? And have there been studies that show that there may be a problem with universities not including a politically diverse assortment of professors? And what are the repercussions of excluding conservative academic professors from universities? One such study found the liberal professors outnumbered conservatives 12-1. And a survey found that liberal professors admitted they discriminate against conservatives in hiring advancement. This article cites 4 studies that found the proportion of professors in the humanities who are Republicans ranges between 6 and 11%, and in the social sciences between 7 and 9%, and that only 2% of English professors are Republican. In contrast, some 18% of social scientists say they are Marxists. We saw the mass hysteria and panic that was caused when the first major fake news event happened, when the radio program War of the Worlds aired. People actually believed that an alien invasion was occurring and that the end of the world was nigh. Now in modern times, we have fake news being perpetuated daily, causing fear and panic, all the while slowly stirring up mass hysteria. Liberals actually believe that Donald Trump being elected is equivalent to Hitler becoming president, and they are literally terrified for their lives that America will become a fascist, racist nation. This hysteria is only further solidified for college students when they hear their Marxist-leaning professors indoctrinate them and peddle fears that Donald Trump is a racist, fascist that is an imminent threat to various aspects of their safety. Right now, we are witnessing the breakdown of a neoliberal political point of view giving way to conservatism as the new counterculture. This mass hysteria we are witnessing in response to Donald Trump becoming president may be one of the most misunderstood political changes in modern history. However, if we examine the hyper-normalization that occurred toward the end of the Soviet Union, we get a deep understanding of what is occurring now as the leftist political ideology collapses before our eyes.
That it had never even occurred to me that in the Soviet Union anything could ever change, let alone that it could disappear. No one expected it. That's why I focused on a group, I call it the last Soviet generation, because I defined the last Soviet generation as a group of people who was formed before any expectation of change dawned on anyone. The political language in the Soviet Union experienced this extreme normalization. It became very predictable, very quotable, repeatable. That norm, which everyone was now reproducing by copying, became also inflated. And I call this process hyper-normalization. A hyper-normalization meaning that there was this inflation of the norm because everyone was outdoing a little bit the previous texts and putting a lot of the same quotes in schools, in colleges, in party committees. It sounds kind of counterintuitive, right? When we think about the famous George Orwell's 1984, the idea is that when you control language so much, when you control representation so much in people's practices, then you close meaning, you close consciousness. People become really, like in the Ministry of Truth, controlled. But actually, counterintuitively, I think it's the opposite. This kind of control of form opened up meaning. All of this together I call this whole big mutation which happened within the Soviet Union, or at least that type of mutation. I call it imaginary West. So there was this production of a space which was kind of local West. But I would say that Soviet socialism provided a stunning example of how a dynamic, strong, monolithic social system can quite suddenly and unexpectedly implode when the discursive conditions of its own existence are suddenly changed.
Now, we are seeing a time where liberal teachers and professors have acquired a monopoly on teaching positions, and they tend to not hire conservative-leaning professors, creating an echo chamber for radicalization. As this hyper-normalized political ideology of the left continues to crumble, we should expect to see further mass hysteria as a symptom while impressionable young people lose the false sense of security they once had in their unsustainable beliefs. It is only a matter of time when we shall see more conservative political expressions transition from being the new counterculture to becoming the hegemonic social norm.
The globalists have controlled the mainstream media for a long time, but now they're expanding, making the weaponization even more vicious and deceptive. All the major networks are state-run.
We are partnering this year with the NFL.
The NFL has become a political weapon against the Second Amendment and pushes Obamacare. MSNBC tells us that our children belong to the state.
We have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities.
The brainwashing media machine has been turned up on high, and it's time for humanity to double down on the true people's media and strike back against the tyrants that are destroying our civilization with their lies and fraud. We are the resistance. You are the resistance. You are the info war. It is more important than ever to realize that we are not the alternative media. We are the true media. The establishment dinosaur press is dying.
We are in an information war, and we are losing that war.
Join us at InfoWarsNews.com and PrisonPlanet.tv. Members can share their memberships with up to 11 people. By subscribing, you will literally be buying war bonds in the info war to expand our operation in the face of the tyrants. Join us at PrisonPlanet.tv.